The Seattle Seahawks have just emphatically completed their journey of redemption, securing the Lombardi Trophy, and the fundamental catalyst for that triumph is the individual right there. It is unequivocally that man. We dedicated an immense amount of discourse to Sam Darnold throughout the season, which was both understandable and warranted. Similarly, Clint Kubiak garnered significant attention as the most coveted head coaching candidate on the market. In that environment, it becomes surprisingly easy to overlook the foundational pillar already residing within the organization. That pillar is precisely that man. Amidst a league-wide scramble to unearth the next Sean McVay, the next offensive prodigy, the next Kyle Shanahan, or Andy Reid, the directive should be far clearer. Endeavor to find the next Mike Macdonald. His performance was nothing short of extraordinary. I am utterly indifferent to the final statistical summary that will populate the box score. Consider the state of the game when the score was 19-0. Drake May's line was 8 completions on 18 attempts for 60 passing yards, a paltry 3.3 yards per attempt, 0 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, 5 sacks for a loss of 30 yards, and a passer rating of 53. The Patriots' rushing attack managed a mere 16 carries for 57 yards. That encapsulates the authentic narrative of the contest's dominant phase. At halftime, the figures were even more stark. 6 for 11, 52 yards, a 60 rating, and the team was held to 0 net rushing yards because May had 2 carries for negative 40 yards, an average of negative 20 yards per attempt. I repeatedly refreshed the statistics to confirm the accuracy, astounded by the depiction. While this is from ESPN's trackers, the portrait it paints is undeniable. It was a display of defensive mastery of the highest order. At every conceivable juncture this season, there was a concerted effort to diminish this Seahawks squad. I am certain of this because I devoted myself to watching every single one of their games. On each occasion, I commended them for a victory. I faced criticism. Whenever I mounted a defense of their performance following a loss, I was similarly challenged. Whether the opponent was the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, no, Baker Mayfield is superior. Sam is perpetually destined to choke. Or the Los Angeles Rams. Sam always crumbles. That defense isn't genuinely elite. Stafford will dissect them regardless. The skepticism was a constant. The commentary from Chris Collinsworth during the broadcast perfectly encapsulated what I had been asserting for the 2 weeks leading to the Super Bowl. He noted, "This is what they have been executing all season long. I simply don't believe a sufficient number of people were paying attention." That is the precise, exact sentiment I have been vociferously proclaiming. I am compiling this analysis in the immediate aftermath, so the official MVP designation remains uncertain, but the victory was a comprehensive team accomplishment. In a fundamental sense, however, the most valuable person was Mike Macdonald. I am pragmatically aware the award will not be bestowed upon a coach. That is not the protocol. The recipient will likely be Sam Darnold, Kenneth Walker, or perhaps the collective defensive unit. Walker indisputably sustained the offensive operation in the first half with several pivotal runs, and Darnold delivered a handful of exquisite throws during that same period. In many respects, the contest was decisively shaped in those initial 30 minutes. While the defense completely suffocated the Patriots, as the statistics vividly illustrate, the Seattle offense also required just enough production to maintain momentum and field position. Examining Sam Darnold's first-half numbers, 9 for 22, 88 yards, does not evoke brilliance, but contextualized with Kenneth Walker's 14 carries for 94 yards and a couple of critical completions to Cooper Kupp and others, it formed a sufficient offensive portfolio. It provided the defense the requisite margin for error and prevented any dramatic shift in game state pressure. Clint Kubiak called a strategically magnificent game. It was not a rigid, pre-scripted plan, but a dynamic, responsive orchestration that evolved seamlessly with the flow of the contest. This adaptive quality was palpable. The scoring sequences in the second half were direct extensions and exploitations of the successes established before halftime. Everything was meticulously set up, and Kubiak proceeded to attack with precision afterward. The well-designed screenplay, the perfectly executed play-action pass for a wide-open touchdown. These were hallmarks of exemplary coaching on both sides of the football. The schemes were so effectively designed that the players were primarily tasked with execution. There were remarkably few instances where an individual was compelled to manifest transcendent, improvisational greatness because the coaching staff positioned them in optimal situations repeatedly. In the crucible of the Super Bowl, when moments arrived that demanded a quarterback elevate beyond the structure, Drake May proved incapable of doing so. He could not summon the necessary heroics. This culmination represents an astonishing year for the entire Seattle Seahawks organization. I have accumulated a substantial archive of commentary and critiques, a collection of receipts, so to speak, with video clips cued for a future production. I will reserve that comprehensive retrospective for tomorrow, as I am eager to compile it properly. The material spans back several months, capturing the myriad dismissals of this team and of Sam Darnold specifically. I assembled it prior to the Super Bowl, hopeful for the opportunity to utilize it, and the narrative payoff is immensely satisfying. There is an abundance of poignant material for that forthcoming analysis. For now, paramount congratulations are due to the Seattle Seahawks faithful. This victory was profoundly impressive and constituted a supremely gratifying act of vengeance. I acknowledge that the broader, casual viewing audience may not have found this a aesthetically thrilling, offensive spectacle. But for those who cherish football strategy and defensive dominance, this was a masterclass. It was a tutorial in elite coaching on both sides of the scrimmage line. Even when leading only 9-0 or 12-0 at halftime, the offensive approach by Clint Kubiak remained a study in control and tactical acumen. I struggled to identify a single consequential mistake made throughout the entire 60 minutes. There was never a moment where one questioned a play call, a strategic decision, or a pass attempt. The operation did not place a single foot wrong for even an instant. It was a performance devoid of errors. This aligns perfectly with my pregame contention. If the Seahawks avoided mistakes, the game would not be competitive. It was not competitive. There is an inherent irony in examining the final box score, as it will appear somewhat distorted by garbage time production. Drake may finish with 295 yards and 2 touchdown passes, but those totals will be heavily inflated by the context of the game's conclusive, desperate stages. His 2 interceptions and a fumble were authentic, however. Similarly, Sam Darnold's final line of 19 for 38 for 202 yards does not accurately reflect his command and game management. The most telling statistics are the Seahawks' 27 carries for 135 yards and the 6 sacks registered against May. Those figures illuminate the true story, a defense that applied relentless pressure and a run game that provided consistent, chain-moving production. The frequency with which the Patriots found themselves in untenable down and distance situations, 2nd and 12, 3rd and 15, felt perpetual. Credit for that belongs entirely to that formidable defensive unit. This was, in essence, a straightforward victory. From my perspective as a viewer, there was never a point where I believed the Patriots possessed a legitimate pathway to win this game. Even when the lead was only 9 points, and Collinsworth valiantly attempted to maintain broadcast suspense by noting, "There's still time," my internal response was definitive. Not against this specific Seahawks defense. The anticipated comeback narrative simply was not materializing. This perspective comes from someone who is a genuine admirer of Drake May's talent. Yet, I never experienced a single moment where I felt he was on the verge of seizing control of this championship contest. My prevailing thought was that he would accumulate supplementary statistics during the latter, inconsequential phases of the game, which indeed transpired. The outcome was effectively decided by intermission. One could observe the defensive swarm, the instantaneous pressure, the closing of throwing windows, the elimination of escape routes. On the occasions when time was available, May failed to capitalize. In contrast, Sam Darnold delivered the necessary plays when called upon. The run game provided a stable foundation. While the generated turnovers were advantageous, their significance was almost superfluous. Even in a hypothetical scenario removing all sacks and takeaways, the Seahawks' command of the game's tempo and structure was so complete that the ultimate result likely would have remained unchanged. Seattle never had to extend beyond their intended controlled methodology. When a team can impose its will without deviation from its core identity, victories of this magnitude are the inevitable consequence. This triumph represents the textbook culmination of a multi-year building process. The construction of this formidable defense, the calculated acquisition and integration of Sam Darnold, the hiring of Clint Kubiak, each decision has been validated. Consider the narratives surrounding these individuals. Sam Darnold was broadly cast aside as a reclamation project. Clint Kubiak was dismissed by his previous employer. The New Orleans Saints moved on from him, opting for Kellen Moore, a capable coach in his own right. The Los Angeles Rams deemed Cooper Kupp expendable, and Jackson Smith-Njigba's expressed desire to join a championship contender in Seattle was met with derision. The notion of seeking a ring in Seattle was mocked. 10 months later, he is a Super Bowl champion. The poetic justice is profoundly compelling. The Seattle Seahawks were demonstrably the premier franchise in the National Football League across the entire calendar year. They executed the most effective offseason, compiled the most impressive regular season, and now have capped it with a championship. From the moment the confetti settled on the Philadelphia Eagles' victory last year, marking the commencement of the new league year, the Seahawks commenced a period of unparalleled operational excellence. They have essentially won the full cycle from February to February. The Eagles previously achieved this perfect calendar year feat, and it is unsurprising that the subsequent champion has now replicated it. The Seahawks' execution was flawless. There is no single decision or moment one can isolate and lament, if only. It was an exhibition of perfection from inception to conclusion. I eagerly anticipate the diverse reactions and attempts at rationalization that will populate the commentary section. This initial post-game reflection is merely the first of many Seahawks-focused videos to come. I will have ample opportunity to delve into the nuances, the receipts, and the season-long narrative. For now, the essential facts stand. The Seattle Seahawks have emerged victorious with a final score of 29-13, achieving a decisive measure of revenge. I am immensely interested in your perspectives. Please share your thoughts and analyses below. I read every single comment. Whether you concur with this assessment or vehemently oppose it, let's engage in discussion, let's debate vigorously, but ultimately, let's share in the aftermath of this championship event. Please consider subscribing to the channel. We are cultivating a phenomenal community here, and I would be delighted for you to participate. My objective is to foster a space where we feel a genuine collective connection and shared enthusiasm for the sport. I believe we are making significant progress toward that goal. Also, please remember to give this video a thumbs up, as it substantially assists with visibility and distribution within the platform's algorithmic framework. Thank you so much for your time and engagement. I will see you in the next video.